Welcome to Sidetracked, your unofficial agency of record. I'm Shane.
And I'm Emily, and we help run Trek, a tech-driven, full-service creative agency based in Rockford, Illinois.
Here on the podcast, we tackle our clients' biggest marketing challenges. We reveal what's worked for us and dig into real-life case studies and practical strategies you can put to work today.
Curiosity is our compass, which is why we always start with a question. All right, today's big question is, what happens to my marketing video after it's produced? And here to help us answer that question back again is Sean Burke, our social media strategist. Welcome, Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hi, guys. Hi, how you doing?
Good. So let's start this party with thinking about brands that do really good marketing videos. I need a minute to think personally. So Sean, why don't you go first? I'm sure you have.
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's a couple different brands that really do video particularly well. And I think that the thing that makes it good video is the fact that it's entertaining, but it's still highly pertinent to what the brand does. I actually went to a film festival recently for a company called Field Notes. Field Notes is a company that makes tiny 5x3.5-inch notebooks. They use American materials. Everything is like made near the Chicago area at a printer and binding facility. They've really tapped into like that hipster photographer creator market. And they do a lot of really interesting work in like preserving Americana and like tapping into different aspects of American culture for their books. Like they recently just did a series that was reprintings of the birds and wildlife of North America that were like thousands of paintings done by a American artist. And as part of that series of notebooks, they actually did a little tiny mini doc, like a documentary, that Wynn interviewed his estate to find out more information about how these paintings came to be. This guy basically just like decided this was something he wanted to do, went and started just sketching and painting birds. And then all of his own accord in like I believe the 30s or 40s went and published 12 different volumes of these bird paintings. And then though they kind of lived in obscurity for a little while, they weren't like super widely popular, but they were rediscovered more recently and as part of a project, used for Field Notes so that you could, have, in fact, I have one right here, but so,
I love Field Notes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, so as part of that, like rollout of this specific Field Note edition, they did a mini doc series talking about the history of this artist that then led to them being inspired to now, use that artwork for Field Notes. They, at this film festival, they debuted stuff like that, or like, not debut, they've replayed stuff like that. They have this huge catalog where for whenever a new edition is made, they have a team internally that does like a video to pair with it. And they do a really good job. They get really creative. They made one that was related to like a moon landing or like related to the history of NASA. And so they like took out like a huge like 12-foot by 12-foot palette of plywood and covered it in all this powder and stuff to make it look like the surface of the moon. And they threw rocks at it and filmed it with like a slow-mo camera to make it look like comets were hitting the moon and stuff. It was really neat. They find a lot of creative ways to use videos. It's not something that like you would think of a notebook brand doing, I think, which is kind of interesting. And they get a lot of use out of them on social media. And, they recently did this film festival that they got to get, I think, 700 or so people to a small theater in Chicago of like, they're like highly loyal brand people, like customers who are like subscribed to their newsletter and stuff like that, really invested in the brand, total nerds about paper and notebooks, and, have this fun night where they played 2 hours of videos of stuff that they produced.
And it sounds like one of the things that makes these videos impactful, makes people want to watch them, is they're not about the product. They're about something else. Like they're about something
Yep.
that's related to the product, but they're giving the viewer more value than just like a product video.
Yeah, because the notebook itself is so utilitarian, right? So it's like 45 or 48 pages. That's just like it's a notebook. At the end of the day, it's a very like commodity product. But the video is focused on like the inspiration behind the theme, and it's focusing on the behind the scenes. Or if it's something that's a little bit more nebulous, then they'll go to like extra creative lengths uh to showcase what like the theme is aiming at. Like so for they did a East Coast and West Coast set that was two sets of like three notebooks each in each set that had like a map of different parts of the East and West Coast on it. And to promote that one, they started the day in New York at a place I believe in Long Beach or Palm Beach or something in New York that has the same name on the West Coast. They filmed a sunrise, and then they immediately flew to the West Coast, went to the same town name in California, and filmed a sunset. And they documented that whole journey in like a short, like 45-second video. So
Neat.
yeah,
Huh.
What about you, Shane? Do you have
Okay.
one?
I do. One brand that makes good videos is Baked by Melissa. Um, Baked by Melissa is a cupcake company. You can order cupcakes for delivery. They also have locations where you can go in and buy cupcakes. But I recently got kind of addicted to the videos that their founder puts out.
I love those.
And I love them too. She's in her kitchen cooking, and she's cooking like normal food, not cupcakes, like the food she actually eats. She's making lunch, she's making dinner, and they're not really recipe videos because she's not really giving you a recipe. She's explaining what she's doing, but she's not giving you like precise amounts or anything. And she's just like making mostly healthy food actually. And then occasionally the account will be like, buy some cupcakes.
sure.
And I really like it. Now that I'm thinking about it, there might be two different accounts. It might be her account like interacting with the main brand account. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't know, it's Baked by Melissa. Like I love her videos. I'm
It's
gonna buy her
baked by
cupcakes.
Melissa, and the videos are Melissa. So it's like
Yes,
they're
yeah.
tied regardless. Yeah, if she says cupcakes or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I watch the videos, so then, of course, I get hit with their ads when it's like a holiday, Mother's Day, send cupcakes, Father's Day, send cupcakes, and yes, I have sent cupcakes, like, 6 times now to people for various holidays because I like Melissa.
I like
I
Melissa
love when
too.
social media works like that. When you like feel like you have a
Yes,
connection to the brand like that.
exactly. Okay, Emily, what's yours?
And
Is it as
uh
sweet as cupcakes?
well, I there's like a couple of different things that come to mind, and I think it's all similar to what you're saying, Sean. It's all like telling a story about something in a way that feels authentic. And like what you're saying, Shane, is like they don't sell me as like the first thing. Like they're not creating videos to sell me something, because when you see a video on Instagram, you can tell like, okay, this is an ad, you immediately will move past it. Or like on YouTube, for example, like if you're scrolling, you can tell the videos that are just like they're just selling you something, you know. Um, so I think there's similar actually to your Baked by Melissa. There's this glass company that makes insulated glassware for hot coffee, but they're made out of glass. And he also is like the founder, and so the whole account and website has really cool videos of people making coffee. So he's like a well-known coffee influencer, and he shares his recipes for, again, it was like, this is what I was thinking, and you said Baked by Melissa, and I was like, mine's gonna be almost exactly the same, but with coffee. And he shares recipes for like my favorite. I like flavored coffee. And he makes this like vanilla syrup that's really, really simple, really good, doesn't taste fake, and he shares it through his site So when you go on the site, you see these cool little videos of someone making the syrup in the little glass that they have, and um, really pretty, really like another commodity type thing. Like you're saying, Sean, like I could buy a glass that looks something like that from TJ Maxx, and it's
Yep.
not like, but I know that that one has been tested so that it can be hot. It's not going to shatter if you have, the temperature is too drastic from either too cold or too hot. So like it's soft sold through content, but content that I wanted regardless if they were trying to sell me something or not. And it has like made me open to buying from them. Whereas like if I would have seen an ad for this glass, I would have just been like, I don't need another glass, like, okay, cool. It's
Sure.
resistant to heat. Fine. But it's like useful, entertaining, aligns with the kinds of content that I like. I've watched him on YouTube too because he does like he has this huge setup. And so it's like, watch my $7,000 setup of like making coffee. And he's got like this like really crazy grinder and like, all that stuff. Coffee nerd. So
Is
yeah,
this the
I think
guy who
he's,
has like gray hair, who's like swept to the side and like large glasses?
no, but I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
His name
So
is,
many coffee
yeah.
influencers.
Yeah.
His name is Ethan. They're like floor glasses is what they're called.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I have to look that up.
yeah.
Well, this is the core principle of content marketing, which is provide something of value. Don't interrupt the thing that people want to be watching or reading. Be the thing that people want to be watching or reading. So we're here to talk about video because video is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and we have been telling clients, and clients have been coming to us for a long time and saying, everyone says I need to do video. How do I do that? Or I know that I want to use video for this conference, for this trade show. I have to do a video. And we're constantly telling them in social, use more video and that kind of thing. But they think of it as a one-time event. You put all of this work into this one video, and then it's like, awesome, we love this video. Where does it go? Like, where do we put it now? We just spent this money doing this video, doing this great shoot. What do we do with all this footage? So that's part of what we want to get at here is like, what happens after it's produced? But maybe first we should start with like, how do we go about producing a video and like the steps of understanding where it's going to go first. Sean, walk us through maybe at the beginning of a project when someone says, yeah, I want to do a video, how we start with that like strategy piece.
Sure. So, approaching video, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. There are, I think, two main paths you can go down. You can go down a path where you're, creating a script, doing a storyboard, getting everything very tightly planned ahead of time to make a video that goes after a specific goal and kind of do a bunch of pre-planning to make the work on the day as minimal as possible or as controlled as possible. Which is a good thing. And it's how movies are done. And it's how large commercials are done. If you're having something done with that's like a really big budget or has time constraints or must be shot in the morning or must be shot with certain people, that's a really good way to go about it because it helps plan around the day. And the other way to go out and capture video is to not have a specific plan, but rather capture a whole process. So going to think like a manufacturing plant and starting from the blank piece of steel that they start with, follow all the way through to when that's a finished product and just kind of capture everything you can in between. And then in the edit, kind of put all that together into a cohesive process with maybe voiceover or text on screen. Basically, you're putting more time into the edit by not planning, but you have more archival footage to work with if you are only capturing the process. And we've done a mix of both. We've done stuff that's like highly produced with strict deadlines and strict like scripts and recording schedules and filled a whole day that way. And we've done the other way where we go out to a location and we know in general what we would like to capture, but we're doing a lot of freeform video creation, video filming at the site and kind of reacting to what's there.
And how much beforehand are you thinking about things like distribution, the channels you're going to be using for putting the video out, the strategy behind those channels?
Quite a bit. Normally, when we're going out and capturing video, we have, one big ticket item in mind that we're trying to capture for. So we normally have like one, think of it as like a pillar video. So, or a set of pillar videos if it's like going over specific products or machines or maybe a person and their experience with the company or something like that. And then we have a bunch of different other ideas of other things that, sourcing from people here at Trek at a, full service marketing agency, what we might use video for. That's things like social, email, website headers, a bunch of different stuff. And we go with kind of both in mind because you want to get the main content that is going to be educational and, serve the purpose of explaining what this company does and who this company is and tell a story. But you also want all the supporting materials that you're going to use as B-roll, the footage that goes over someone talking, that kind of shows the process or shows the product or shows what you're talking about. And that stuff, that B-roll footage is fantastic for things like social media, where you can take a bunch of that, compile it all together, and make a totally different clip with maybe separately recorded voiceover and send that out on social media, which is great. There's a little bit of planning that goes into like how you're actually capturing the footage. Generally, I like to think of footage capture in terms of wide, medium, and tight, meaning the different kind of focal lengths that you'll use. So you want wide shots that are going to show like an established scene. They're going to give you a lot of context for what's happening. You're going to have medium shots that are going to be a little bit more specific, but still have room to breathe for your subject. And you're going to have tight shots, which are going to be, very like focused detail shots, macro stuff, any kind of like close up of a person, that kind of stuff. That stuff is the tight stuff is gonna lend itself really well to any kind of pillar content video because it's a very like specific, very directed piece of filming. Wider stuff can actually be cropped from horizontal aspect ratios to vertical aspect ratios really easily. Same with medium stuff. If you shoot it correctly, you'll be able to take a 4K video and crop it to 9:16 vertical, and that'll give you 1080 by 1920. That'll give you the correct aspect ratio and the correct resolution for something like Instagram. So if you can frame your subject where something stays, relatively in center of the frame, and you know what ratio you're trying to get, roughly a third to a quarter of the screen, then you can then use that wide clip that you use as establishing shot. You can also use it now as more of a medium shot on social media and still have a lot of that context and still have, content that matches your pillar content exactly, but is used a little differently. Does that make sense?
So you can capture footage that will work for both like a TV commercial and a reel on Instagram.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that is like the goal is that you don't just have video that you use one way. Like you always want to think about get as much as we, and that's always what we say is just get as much as we can, whatever happens. And I think some of the best footage we've gotten has been like accidental things that we didn't plan that lead to more authentic interactions with people or clips and then like, some of that kind of thing. But then you can use bloopers in a different way. You can use B-roll in a whole nother way on the website. You can use like, just being able to make the most of the visit or the efforts and plan to use it and distribute it everywhere. The way you do that is different.
Absolutely. And I think that there's value in when you're planning a day, even if you're planning, a full day shoot with a bunch of scripted material, I think leaving yourself like an hour to maybe 30 minutes at the end of the day of shooting time for your team to just go around and capture anything that they might think is visually interesting, just kind of like not play, but like to experiment and to get stuff that's a little bit more, a little bit less planned, a little bit more fun. We actually had a experience with this when we went down to a client in Ohio. We went to film a bunch of their new staff that they had just got, and also capture a new space that they had just entered. And towards and we had a bunch of like very planned content, a bunch of like, we're going to sit in the conference room, we're going to get a bunch of B-roll of them engaging with, training materials. We're going to sit everyone down for interviews in different locations. We're going to get, close-ups of certain materials and certain equipment. But at the end of the day, we had like maybe 45 minutes to an hour where we were just able to do kind of whatever we wanted. We didn't specifically plan for that, but it worked out really well. And there was an idea that came up to take one of their brand colors and use an LED light to flash that over a piece of very reflective metal material that they use in some of their products. I think it's an impeller for a pump. And we were able to basically start on a black screen, flash this like green over this pump part, and then fade back to black. And it's one of those things that's just like, you don't really need it. You don't really need it for anything, but it's very visually interesting, which is great for social. It can be used for B-roll and things. And when, you're there on a video shoot, the people you're interviewing want to see creative stuff done. So the client actually got behind the camera and saw the shot right after it had been filmed, before it had been edited or anything, which we don't always do, but for stuff like that, we might. And got really excited, and it, makes them more excited and feel more part of the process when they get to see creative stuff like that behind the camera.
So in the capture of it is, obviously needs to be strategic. And then like we get back and we've got
Yeah.
all of this footage and we have the idea of what we wanted to do with it. At least like you're saying, like the pillar story. We have like the
Yeah.
primary thing that we want to do with it. How often, and maybe this is a question for you, Shane, or I'm not sure. How often is it that we can use that video in the same video in different parts of the buying journey? So like if we go to shoot a video mostly for awareness of like who a brand is, like can it also be a video that has more bottom of the funnel actions or calls to actions, or how often can one video do multiple things in a funnel?
I think, Shane, I'll jump in and then you can follow up. But I think that there's chance for that for every piece of video content. The more bottom of funnel you get, the more specific you have to be. But I think like something like, let's say, a testimonial is great for not only the beginning of the funnel and awareness, or the middle of funnel, maybe consideration stage. It's also great for the post-buyer journey of people who are looking to validate their experience with the brand. They're looking to validate their like decision to go with us or something like that. So they can then, see other customer stories. Those then also might not work their way directly into, the bottom of funnel, like ready to purchase right now. But if they can't, like, they can help sway opinion, which is a good thing to remember. I do think the closer you get to the bottom of the funnel, you do need to be more specific. I think it generally works in reverse. I think you start with what's in the bottom of the funnel, and then that you can take that stuff and extrapolate it out for more awareness and middle of the funnel stuff. But yeah, that's just my take.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on how you shape the script and how you edit it, and it's the story that you put to it. So, that happens all the time where we take the same piece of video footage and use it for top of funnel things, middle of funnel things, bottom of funnel things. I think it's more about like, well, I'll ask this to you, Sean. So we have a client, we have tons of video footage from maybe multiple shoots over a period of years. How do we put together new things from all of that video footage?
Sure. I think a lot of it is being very organized, being very meticulous. And this is something that our creative team has gotten really good at over the years, is having a like defined file structure. Typically what happens is, as soon as we get back from a shoot, like immediately, as quickly as we can, we offload and organize all the footage. And normally that is, organizing things by certain scripts that might be, or normally, more commonly, it'll be related to the actual content within the clips. So it'll be like, let's say if we went to a shoot and there was specific video of like a building that we had, we would be like, okay, so here's all the footage we took of that particular building. And then if there's specific things inside that building, we'll put all that in one folder and then have subfolders within of different portions of that building. So that then later when, I have the luxury of, working on a lot of the video stuff and also being a social media specialist. So I have a lot of crossover knowledge between like, I have a post I have coming up about that particular building. I then know I can go onto our database and like look through to find corresponding footage, which is great. But it's also like set up in a way where you can walk into it fairly blind and know how to get to stuff that you need if it's described well, if that makes sense.
So it's about being organized and making sure you know what footage you have so that when you want to make something, you know what's possible.
So thinking about like our big question, what happens to my marketing video after it's produced? So we've
Sure.
captured it. We on our end have thought through the strategy and the messaging, how it fits in the buying journey. And then
Yeah.
it's been produced. Where does it go?
So this goes back a little bit to like the planning portion where, we'll have that pillar content that'll go wherever we've planned for it to go and wherever we've like set budgets aside for it to go. So it's going to go on places like YouTube. It's going to go to, a TV station if that's something that we have planned for the client. It'll go on Google Ads. It can go to social media ads, that kind of thing. We're making video in such a way that it can, go across different delivery systems. What people might not be thinking what people might not be thinking of that can also entail is things like email, things like your website, things like social media clips well after the fact. If like we've been talking about, kind of stitch a bunch of clips together and think of a new purpose for this video that you've already captured. But there are like new emerging ways to use video as well. Like for instance, in the office, Nick has been putting together Gaussian splat videos or videos that use 3D models that use Gaussian splatting. Basically, to really like quickly surmise what this technology is it takes a bunch of video footage and tries to track where the camera is in that environment. And then it takes all the still images of that video and creates rough 3D models of the environment and then projects the images onto that environment using like the depth and also, color and everything else from the photos to kind of create a 3D environment very quickly. And it's something that like loads faster than traditional 3D models and is like viewable in a web browser kind of thing. But that is something where we're using, maybe drone footage that we've captured, like a 360 of a building, and then we're able to now use it in this very interactive way on a website where, that would have been hundreds of hours to meticulously rebuild a building, brick by brick. So it's there's all kinds of ways you can use video nowadays, even down to, as simple as taking a still image from a video. If you have a 4K or 8K video, you can take a still and then use that anywhere on that you could use a photo on website, social, a billboard, like, depending on how high resolution you can get it or if you can upscale it. Like video is not just video anymore. Video is a bunch of new stuff that you can kind of use organically throughout your marketing material.
Okay, so 2 questions for you, Sean. One is what I always hear from clients, which is, can I just post this video everywhere now? So like they were really excited about the one video. They know that we're getting footage for all the other things, but they're really excited about that one video. Hey, can you put this on our website and on our social and on our Vimeo and on our, all the places?
Sure.
Is that a good idea to post the same video everywhere, or does the video need to change based on the platform that it's on? Or just talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. I do think that the best results are going to come from slightly modifying the video for each platform. For instance, something on YouTube, you can get away with something being like 4 or 5 minutes long. Something on Instagram, I don't even think the platform will currently let you upload things that are 45 minutes long, and let alone people watch it all the way through. So you might have to shorten things, and that's only the length of the video. You also have to be concerned about aspect ratio, different resolutions. If you're going to put something on your website, you may not need the whole 4K video. You may be able to get away with 1920 by 1080. If you're going to put it on social, you almost certainly want it to be vertical aspect ratio rather than horizontal. I think it's always worth considering, just from a technical aspect, how video is managed, but also from, a content perspective. On social media and shorter, more ephemeral platforms, you're going to want to be more punchy and have like less lead up time in the edit. Whereas on something like, your website or YouTube, where people might be a little bit more invested, you can have a little bit more of context added at the beginning, or you can have a little bit of a longer storyline throughout. But I do think you should always be mindful of the final audience and how it's going to be viewed.
So then my follow-up question to that is, how often do you refresh videos or come back to them, or do you just let them be for that moment in time that they are? Or if I'm a B2B marketer and I'm uploading video to my YouTube, and also maybe my website, like let's just keep it really simple. It's a longer form video that's like a product demo or something like that. Obviously, how often my technology or my product or my service changes is going to dictate like how often I should update a video. But let's say like more evergreen stuff, like the story of our business, or just general information about the company, that kind of thing. How often should you be coming back to those videos and creating new content?
I like to think of those more like I would think about like something like a headshot. Like if you see someone on LinkedIn and their headshots from 1995, you're gonna immediately have some assumptions about that person and maybe their willingness to portray who they are at the current day. So that is, and it can be extended to brand content in video. I think you should be updating yourself as much as your brand is changing throughout time. So a good rule of thumb, I think, is to have new videos. Like if you're going to have a brand video that's going to say, this is who we are, this is what we do, update it fairly regularly. I would say at least once every couple of years. You can get away with having a headshot on LinkedIn that's 2 to 3 years old. After 2 to 3 years, you just don't start to look the same. Some things change. Same with business. Like, you imagine people who, had a video out before the pandemic, and now, like, the world has changed so much and their business has probably changed, but they're not showing that. And another thing to consider with business is, your turnover rate. If you have people in the video who are now no longer at the company and it's filled with those kind of people, then you may want to change it just for that, just so that you're showing, who your workforce actually is. Or if you're, like you said, if your offerings have changed, if video technology has changed, and, if your video is 720p and, you have the ability to do 4K, maybe update the video. It's going to be different for every
Okay,
business, but
I have a question about that because we've gotten this question from clients. They spend all this money and all this time and investment to create a video, and then 2 weeks after the video is done, that person that's in the video quits. Can they no longer use that video? What do you think? Is it okay to use that video still?
I think it's perfectly fine. I think that you don't want an abundance of people who don't work at your company in the video, but if it's like a one-off, or if it's, a couple people, I think that's totally fine. If it's a founder or like a very public-facing person, maybe not.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say it might depend on the role.
yeah,
Yeah, and
if
how
it's
much they're in the video and what they're saying in the video. Are they just doing something in the background, or are they, giving a testimonial in the video? I
if they're in the
agree it's case
video,
by
yeah,
case, but it can get really tricky because video can be a snapshot in time. And, we've certainly had clients come back to us and say, "Hey, make a version of this video that doesn't feature this person." And then
sure.
But
we
I
just do a
think
new edit, which is totally passable as long as you had enough footage to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't think you should shy away from showing your people for that reason, and that we say that too, like
Agree.
you don't be scared to use your people because, that's what's going to resonate the most
Hmm.
today and probably for at least a while. People don't want to see business videos. They want to see people. They want to hear stories. They want connection to your brand. And that happens person to person, not person to text on screen 100% of the time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you didn't connect with a glass coffee cup. You
No,
connected with a person who taught you how to
the
make vanilla
barista,
simple syrup.
Yep.
barista, I don't know. The dude,
Sure.
the dude who makes the
The
coffee.
dude,
Yeah.
that dude that makes that black coffee over there.
Oh, not black.
Yeah,
It has cream for sure.
perfect. I do my coffee black.
You could cream and sugar.
Oh
This is too
man.
light though.
Wait,
yeah,
can we
no,
see
I
that
think
coffee again?
No, I'm not gonna show
I
you.
want to see that coffee again. What are you
It's
drinking?
it's a cafe con leche, but it was
Oh,
very light. It
nice.
melted, the ice
Yeah.
melted, so it's much
Yeah.
lighter.
It's like watery now. Yeah. Okay.
Mine's
That's
Clearly
coffee,
this
I've
but
morning's coffee.
That's this morning's coffee, and it is no longer morning, in case you were wondering,
Guys,
and that's
I have
why.
to say, at the beginning of this recording, I left my coffee over there and
Oh
I'm
no.
regretting
no.
it. It's all the way over there.
So
Uh,
video.
so video. Yeah, no, to touch back on like, people being in your video. I think it's also, something that I think a good important piece of context that a lot of people forget to, forget to remember is that you're going to know who in your video no longer works at your company. The vast majority of people will not. So unless it was like, an extensively like, bad breakup between that person, or, if it's a fairly inoffensive, someone just like left to go to another opportunity, it can be perfectly fine just to leave that person in. And,
Mm,
maybe unless they say something, but in many cases, it's going to be okay. It'll be fine.
yeah. Case by case, though.
Case by case.
Case by case.
Your mileage may vary.
Okay, here's a question for you. Say a client has a ton of video footage. They don't have or they don't want to make the investment for capturing new footage right now. How do we approach that situation? But
I
they
think
want
we
to make
do.
new videos.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. There may be situations where, it is pretty imperative to go out and capture new stuff. Depends on, again, like if the offering has changed, if the business has changed, who's there, like what's available. It's going to change this answer a lot. But I think you can generally make video backlogs work. I don't think it's the most ideal scenario. I think ideally when you're coming up with a video campaign, or if you're coming up with, an idea for new content you want to produce, I think going out and capturing stuff specific to that is always going to be stronger than leaning on a catalog. That being said, if you have a really extensive, freshly updated catalog, you can get a lot of mileage out of that, just depending on how old it is and what's in there.
What about like a different cut with like a voiceover, or like a different
Mm,
voiceover, or like
Exactly. Yeah.
just
Yeah, you
adding
can
in some
totally do stuff
visuals?
like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, worst case scenario, I know we've created videos using stock images and voiceover when necessary, when there's really no video footage. That's totally possible. And can add in, motion graphics, and we make it work.
My
Yeah.
hot take is that I hate stock in pictures,
I mean,
video.
same,
Like
same. That's worst case
Yeah.
scenario.
yeah, worst case for
I,
sure. But yeah,
I'm not sure that that's a hot
hot
take. That's a
take.
fairly lukewarm take,
Okay,
but
maybe my hot take is that
Cold
like
take.
I want to take a hard stance of like never stock for our clients. If I had that
sure.
control, I
Yeah.
would say no.
Yeah, I think we all agree. I
I would
think one
love
of
to go capture
the
new video and photo.
going back to your point, Sean, about being really organized, I think the thing that makes me the saddest is in video is when a client like does the upfront investment of the video shoot and then nothing really happens with the video content. And that happens for a variety of reasons, but there's like the upfront investment of the shoot, and then there's the investment to actually make as much as you can from all that video footage. And we do that over, it could be a period of years after that original video was shot, but just to get all that footage and maybe make one video from it is such a waste, I think, because you can go back and keep remixing all of that video content and amplify it and distribute it across many different channels over a long period of time. So like best case scenarios when we're able to make, tons and tons and tons of videos from a 1-day shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's certainly missed opportunities where people, have a good catalog of footage, but then, we don't really have the outlet or the mechanism to make, a bunch of video for other channels. Like if we don't have control of their social, for instance, social's a really easy one and one that I'm really connected to, but there are other ways. But like, if it all depends on like what a client, is willing to put budget behind, and then also what access we have to distribution. So if we only have access to like their YouTube and their website, and they pay for one really well produced video that, does really well and like encourages a bunch of conversions like on their website, or like validates a bunch of conversions, or, is a great brand awareness piece that's used in ads or something like that. If it's a one case use like that, I don't see it as a waste, but I sympathize with the fact that like that video could go longer. It could go further, like have longer legs. But I think it's all just depends on what kind of effort people are willing to put into distribution. Cause it is time. It is time to, edit all this stuff and plan where it goes and make sure the messaging's consistent. Like that takes a good amount of effort, but it is something to be mindful of when you're, putting together a video campaign. Thinking of it as a one and done is one thing. Thinking of it as, a resource that you can use for longer than just that one video is I think a better way to look at it.
I think we as an agency are maybe like one way of doing things, but maybe for others out there who are in B2B marketing space and they don't have an
Sure.
agency, or they have their internal teams, I think there's 3 things that I'm hearing that like help you make successful video captured. And I think that's first, like we've talked about, the brand model, message map, and some of that aligning on that message so that can inform the direction of how you're speaking to your audience. Like that's always kind of a foundation. So having that, and then when you get the capture, having lots of options and having it organized.
Yes.
And I would almost group into that second point in a system. So you mentioned our internal system, but I know a lot of corporations have like internal DAMs, digital asset managers. And so sharing it in a DAM with the tagging system like you talked about, so that like the social team over here, like in our case, our video and our social and our content marketing are all the same people. Like we all talk,
Yeah.
but if you're at a corporation, they don't, and like there could this be amazing footage that like all the teams could be using, but they don't because it's not shared or organized. So I think that's then the third thing is like, so make it accessible and organized. And then the third is like share it with people internally
Yeah.
or with your agencies. Like if you didn't use us to do video capture, totally fine. But like be great if you could share with us what was captured because it could make the marketing better. So just kind of being more of a team mindset on video. We do organically as an agency, but we can and we like to do with our clients as team, being on the same team, and they can do on their own as a team.
100%. Yeah. And I think that one thing I would add to that is, if you're at, a specific organization and you're doing their B2B marketing, maybe build in time, every so often to go review the footage, like go in and just like take stock of what's there. It's something that's important to do just to keep top of mind, like when you're creating other materials. Oh, we have a piece of marketing or a piece of video that matches this marketing message perfectly. I know roughly where it's at and I know how to go find it. That like you don't need to have everything memorized, but you should be like aware of what's there, or, like you said, have everything tagged in such a way that it's easily searchable, easily findable. Because if you're not thinking about it, you won't use it. So be thinking about it, basically.
So problem solved. This client came to us. They do a lot of restoration work and they wanted to show the before and after and the process of all the care that goes into what they do. And so they knew they wanted a really long video that showed that process from start to finish. But Sean, maybe take us through that whole project, and we've done multiple projects now with them that kind of have followed the same pattern, and how we've helped them really use their produced footage after the fact.
Sure. So this client in particular, we do a lot of video work for, which is fantastic. And we go out to varying locations. Often their work will win awards and this kind of thing. So that will prompt us to go out and get very specific footage of finished projects. And we do a lot of going out while projects are underway, under construction, to, film all the process. We've also interviewed people and their staff. And we've interviewed, customers that they've worked with to get the full story of from starting the work all the way through to how the client feels after, how their client feels after the fact. And it's really, really a great treasure to have that whole through line and from so many different locations. It makes my job on social media extremely easy, or much easier anyway, because I'm able to go pull archival footage from different locations and kind of stitch a bunch of different things together. I can stitch several testimonials together. We have multiple angles, so it's easy to kind of like cut and finagle what people have said to make it snappy and quick. It's easy to find, similar shots shot on drones, shot on from the ground, like, to find stuff in the same variety to then really show what this company does, to give a full picture of what this company does on social media. It's great. And their video content always performs very well. Typically the top performing content every month that we use it. And we do monthly reporting for social, so we get to see what posts are, coming up as most engaged, most viewed, most impressions, that kind of thing. And video content, as we know on social, is king. So the fact that they have this huge video library to dive into makes it really easy to then all throughout the year, after, video shoots, to, make stuff that fits whatever content needs to be, written and put out. So
I think we've put some of the like video testimonial pieces like on their website, if I'm not mistaken, and then
Yep.
the YouTube channel gets like the full story, full length video.
Yeah, we've done video. I believe we've done video ads for this client as well. And we've put video on social media. Like I was saying, that we have their YouTube channel is very regularly updated. We have a testimonials page on their website that has like an archive of a bunch of different, more produced testimonial content for everyone to see. And yeah, because we've been to this client several times, it makes, creating all those videos very easy, which is good.
Yeah, we've got like a treasure trove of years of content at this point, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
it just keeps living on.
And it's great to have, projects where they don't know they're going to win an award mid-project, but it's really great to have that footage for when they do win the award, and then we have it later, and we can kind of show the through line of these larger projects that they do. It's a really,
Mhm.
it's good forethought on their part, honestly.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. Thanks for joining us, Sean.
Anytime.
Great having you.
Yeah, I'm just right over there. Tap me anytime.
This year marks our 30th year in business. In this season of Sidetracked, we're gathering Trekkies at the bar to reminisce about our favorite moments from the last 3 decades.
But one that came to mind when I was talking through with the Creative Pod was our first Cubs game, where somehow I got roped into being part of the scouting group. And, I don't really know that I fully knew going into it what that entailed.
What does it entail?
Where we had to
Sorry, I was on that team too, so.
had to run ahead and save seats for everyone.
You were in a separate car.
Yes.
Because this is bleacher seats, and it is first come, first serve. And we're driving a bus to the Cubs game, and we're stuck in traffic. That's
and
traditionally.
I had my kid with me, so I had come separately. We did not ride the party bus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we're having a good time, headed in,
Yes.
a couple drinks were consumed. And we get off the bus and everyone's like, okay, we got this, let's go. And it's you, me, Johnny, who he was like, why did you sign me up for this? I didn't agree to this. And Nick, who is a long distance runner. So we start running and we're like, okay, this does not feel so good. There's a lot of sloshing around. And then Nick very quickly leaves us. He's like 100 feet in front of us. He's just...
He left you behind?
He's
he
at
was
a
in
different
sight.
pace.
He was in sight. He's
Yeah.
just kind of trucking along. He's floating.
Leaving us in this
Leisurely
dust.
I
running.
actually have a video of this happening from the perspective of the bus.
Oh, I've seen that.
And I was mortified to see that after the fact. Because I was like, oh, I look rough.
We had a lot of slop.
Yeah. So Nick very quickly, leaves us in the dust, and he's just comfortable. He's not struggling at all. And Johnny's okay, but Mike and I are like, oh, this is rough. And we're running, and we were like a minute in, and then the bus just kind of drives right by us, and we're like, why are we doing this?
It was all, because it was a mile plus.
It was over a mile, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so
at that
for-
point, we were very early on in our lunch runs. So I was not in as good a shape as I thought I was. And that proved that. But yeah, the bus passed us and then promptly, like blocks ahead, turned left and went to park. And we're like, oh. Okay.
You still beat us to the bleachers, though.
Yes, we did. We did get to the bleachers ahead of time, and we were huffing and puffing. And
Well, when we all four of us stood in the bleachers and in the four corners, like,
Yeah.
this is ours, no, this is us,
Yeah.
we're going to fill these,
So then you started doing lunch runs
we had started
here
in
at
May.
Trek to work on your conditioning for the next summer's Cubs game.
That's why. Yeah.
Well, actually, a rite of passage for our first Cubs game of a Trekkie is doing something that they don't want to do. My first Cubs game, I had to go hunt for the helmet of nachos. And if you've ever been to Wrigley, you know it's like there's only a couple places you can get them, and they are not near the bleachers. So while everyone's chumming it up in the bleachers, I'm multiple stairs and, the loop around, and the vendors near didn't have them, and
I feel like I heard a lot about these nachos from Justin.
they were infamous. Yeah. He had to go find the nachos one year.
Oh, the Cubs games have been so fun.
Yeah.
We do T-shirts.
Yes, one of the years that I remember that I loved the most was our first year where we did all the same colored T-shirts. The sea of orange. So we're out in the bleachers, and the batters are at bat the entire game, and it's that behind the plate camera, and you just see the sea of orange. That was Trekkies.
Because
And
it's how many people? It's like,
20, 30?
it's like,
that year was like
yeah.
30.
Yeah, and we were all concentrated in the sea of orange. And I want to say that was the game in which they celebrated their clinch of the division. And that was really cool to be there for that part too. But then also to be like watching the highlights from the game, and there's us. And that was a lot of fun.
Or like I had shared photos on socials after the fact, and I had multiple people be like, hey, I saw you guys on TV. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
That's the goal. You got to get on TV.
And then I think somebody recognized Laura as we were walking back to the bus and took pictures with us, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they flagged her. I saw you from my seat. Pose a picture with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, cheers to 30 years.
And many more.
And thank you for joining us. You can learn more about Trek at trek.com.
if you like this episode of Sidetracked, rate and review it, share it with a friend, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
See you next time.